Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Katsina State Senior Secondary School Online Connect program powered by Exponential Computers. You are welcome to Biology Class SS2 Second Term Lesson 2 on the topic Nutrient Cycle in Nature, prepared and presented by Nuruddin Sani. Introduction. Nutrient cycle is a natural process in which elements are continuously cycled in various forms between different components of the environment such as air, water, and soil organisms. Examples include carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and water cycle. So what are we trying to say here in essence? Nutrients often circulate between two reservoirs, that is the atmosphere and the earth surface or the hydrosphere. You follow me in the course of explanation to understand how these nutrients circulate the ecosystem. So we'll start with carbon cycle, the definition of carbon cycle. The carbon cycle is a series of events that involve the cyclic movements and transformation of carbon between living organism and environment. Essentially, this is a natural way of reusing carbon molecules in different geographical locations. So in the course of explanation, you will understand the series of events that happen or that occur during the cyclic movement of carbon between the atmosphere and the Earth's environment or the land or the soil. The process of carbon cycle. Carbon occur in the air stroke atmosphere as carbon dioxide, represented by symbol CO2. Atmospheric carbon dioxide dissolve in oceans stroke seas, water bodies, and is circulated continuously through the activities of decaying bacteria and fungi, which decompose the dead plants and animals to release carbon dioxide and water. So what this point is trying to tell us, the actual source of carbon dioxide is available in the atmosphere in the form of carbon, and it is also available on the Earth's surface in the water and even in the plant and animal body, which when this plant and animal body die, bacteria act to accelerate their decomposition, thereby releasing the carbon compound they stored. The carbon dioxide release increases the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, oceans, seas, and water bodies. So what point number 3 is trying to tell us that the atmosphere is a potential reservoir of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide. Animals are also reservoirs of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide and carbon itself. Plants are also reservoir of carbon. So when plant or animal material die, decomposes, particularly bacteria and fungi, that accelerate the decomposition of organic matter, that cause decay of the living entity when it dies. They act on the living plants or animal material, thereby accelerating their deterioration or decay, causing the release of carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide gas will tend to release from the dead carcass of the animals or dead plant body and release directly into the atmosphere. This is the movement of carbon from the earth's surface or from the ecosystem or from the soil back to the atmosphere. Concentration of carbon in the atmosphere is further increased by respiration of the plants and animals and combustion of wood, coal, oil, and fuel. So when animal and plant respire, they release carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide will goes directly into the atmosphere, thereby increasing the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Likewise, when wood, which is a plant material, coal, which is organic material, fuel and oil are also organic material. When we burn fuel or wood, the carbon dioxide also released back to the atmosphere. So we have now learned that carbon dioxide from the Earth's surface can be released back into the atmosphere through the activity of decomposition bacteria and fungi. Respiration of plant and animals also release carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere, and also combustion or burning of wood, coal, fuel can also release carbon dioxide into the back to the atmosphere. So we have learned that there are three ways by which carbon is released back into the atmosphere. So since we say it is a cycle, we need to understand how does this carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is fixed or absorbed from the atmosphere and now become available to the soil, or how it get back into the earth surface. Some of the excess carbon dioxide is absorbed by the seawater bodies and also used by the plant in photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis, which is a process by which the plant use sunlight and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to manufacture their own food, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is being absorbed by the plants for photosynthesis. So we also learned that there is also another process that lead to the sequestration of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and this process is photosynthesis, and it occurs in plants. Organisms in the ocean, sea, water bodies release carbon into the atmosphere during respiration too. So we learn that land animals and water animals carry out respiration and release carbon dioxide as byproduct gas, which will now release directly into the atmosphere. So follow me to see the diagrammatical illustration of carbon cycle. So as you can see from the top, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So we want to now look at the process that lead to the release of carbon dioxide from the earth's surface or various part of the ecosystem to the atmosphere. So arrows indicating the movement of carbon from a source to a point, from the origin, and then from to the point where the carbon will be deposited. So look at this diagram. If you look at it from the bottom of the cycle, where you see fossil fuel, fuel, coal, oil, carbon, and rocks. During the process of combustion, weathering, that means breaking down of parent rocks, or volcano eruption, carbon is released back to the atmosphere. Again, produces green plants. During burning combustion of green plants, dead plant materials, when we are burning plant, carbon is released back to the atmosphere. Again, another process that lead to release of carbon into the atmosphere. Decomposers. Look at decomposers. Decomposers, the activity of decomposers, that is bacteria, fungi. When they act on dead organic matter like plant and animals material, they cause them to decay, and the available carbon reserved into the body of these animals and plant will be released back to the atmosphere. Another process that releases carbon into the atmosphere is respiration of plants and animals, both aquatic plant and land animal. When they carry out respiration, they release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So these are the processes that release carbon into the atmosphere. So now we need to see the process that picks carbon from the atmosphere and make it available to the soil. Photosynthesis of the plants. If you look at it from the atmosphere, plant producers are plants. So they pick carbon directly from the atmosphere and make it available to their body and utilize the carbon to carry out photosynthesis. Atmospheric carbon which is gas, may also tend to move from the atmosphere and dissolve in oceanic water. Carbon from lime rocks may also dissolve in rainwater. Aquatic animals, when they carry out respiration, they release carbon in water. So producers in water get carbon from the water environment and utilize the carbon for photosynthesis. So therefore, as you can see, chemical combustion, that means whenever we chemical combustion also tend to absorb carbon from the atmosphere. That means burning of fossil fuel, are we clear? uh, Rocks and coals and the rest of them. So that is how carbon circulate in nature. So photosynthesis is the major process that lead to the removal of carbon from the atmosphere, making it available to the plant body and enable the plant to carry out photosynthetic activity, which lead to the production of food materials by the plant in the process known as photosynthesis. While processes that lead to release of carbon back to the atmosphere, we have combustion, that is burning. We have also decomposition activity of bacteria and fungi that release carbon into the atmosphere. So many processes release carbon into the atmosphere, and one major process that leads to sequestration or removal or absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is photosynthesis. So that is how carbon circulate in nature. So we now talked about the processes involved in carbon cycle. One, we have photosynthesis, one of the process that remove carbon from the atmosphere. Decomposition or decay, that means the activity of bacteria and fungi towards the decomposition of dead organic matter, causing the release of stored carbon in the body of plant and animal in the form of carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide as a gas being released into the atmosphere. Respiration of plant and animals, both land plant and water plant, release carbon back to the atmosphere. Likewise, fossilization lead to release of carbon, and then combustion stroke burning also release carbon, and volcanic eruption of parent rocks. Volcanic eruption also release carbon into the atmosphere. Next slide. We need to talk about the importance of carbon cycle. It is essential for life because all organisms are made up of carbon. So carbon must circulate. All living organisms are made up of carbon. So it is essential process because the body of plant and animal is made up of carbon. Meaning that plant absorb carbon from the atmosphere, utilize the carbon to make food, and utilize the food to grow and reproduce and produce new individuals that contain carbon in their body. Animal eat plant materials to get carbon, and then the plant material eaten by the animal, the part of the plant will be utilized to make gamete cells, that means sperm and eggs. So this sperm and eggs on fertilization lead to the formation of new individuals made of carbon or containing pocket of carbon compound. In the main component is the main component of glucose, protein, and lipid. So plants use carbon to make their own food. Carbon cycle maintain balanced ecosystem. So when carbon circulate, the ecosystem tend to be in balance. But without circulation of carbon, the whole ecosystem can die out, and all living entity in the world must die, because if there is no carbon, there will be no photosynthesis. No photosynthesis, no food for the plants. No food for the plants, also no food for the animals. No food for the animals, there will be strong competition, and the competition will cause many of the weaker organisms to die of no food. And even the stronger, as the competition continue, they find no food to eat, grow, survive, and reproduce, and then the whole ecosystem will be zero of living entity, and then the life hell to continue on earth if there is no carbon cycle. So imbalanced carbon cycle may lead to serious environmental disasters like global warming. So if there is imbalanced carbon cycle, there it may lead to uh, environmental disasters like global warming. And the global warming is a serious problem as it causes the melting of the polar ice caps, thereby increasing the volume of the oceans. Increasing in the volume of the oceans may lead to flood, and these flood may tend to destroy land, farmland, and residential buildings, leading to the loss of biodiversity. So other organisms eat plants. Therefore, carbon get blocked up in their tissues. So even the animals, plants, animals, and other, and including the human beings, we eat plants and we get block of carbons in our body by eating the plants, because plants use carbon dioxide during photosynthesis to make glucose, and the glucose, the main constituent element in glucose, carbon, is one of them. Carbon cycle, another important of carbon cycle, it ensures continuous circulation of carbon in the atmosphere. Carbon cycle is important for climatic regulation. For example, when there is a huge amount of carbon released into the atmosphere, the level of greenhouse gases increases and therefore trapping more heat into the earth, leading to global warming. So more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere will lead to the greenhouse effect. That means formation of thick layer of carbon dioxide, which will prevent the reflection of heat back into the space, thereby conserving more heat into the earth, thereby raising the earth temperature, leading to global warming. As we had mentioned, we have seen, as we have explained, the effect of global warming is devastating in the ecosystem. It causes flood and it kills so many animals, cause loss of biodiversity, destroy farmland and residential buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with me. Thank you for listening. I hope you will regurgitate and digest the informations received and also read it for internalization and assimilation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.